team called the Bagger drives backwards at the start of the race. The goal of the Bagger is to get into 10th place and ultimately pull the shock, because the shock is super busted and overpowered. When used in coordination with your team, you can dodge the shock while hitting your opponents and they get zapped. This strategy is extremely influential on who wins the races. Now, I don't want to spend all day talking about bagging. I actually have an older video where I kind of go into that, but the most important details is that being in 10th is good because you have a higher percentage chance of getting the shock with each individual item box you touch, and there is a 30-second rule where the shock isn't actually available to pull until after 30 seconds has passed in the race. So, a good bagger is going to be fast at driving backwards. There are a bunch of different skips and shortcuts that were discovered early on when the bagging meta first started. Some of the most notable include this respawn on Bowser's Castle 64. You need to get enough distance to hit the respawn point that will place you at the bridge. Otherwise, you will respawn after the last ramp and your progress backwards will be halted. Then later on the track, in order to get up these stairs, you need to bonk off of this wall in a precise way that will give you a lot of air and send you at the correct angle. On Maple Treeway, you have to cut off this big U-turn, but when done incorrectly, you'll hit the sign and fall off. So you need to launch yourself at the correct angle to land on the track, which saves time. Then later we have another tough wall bonk. On Grumble Volcano, you have to pull mushrooms in order to launch yourself far enough and respawn at the right spot. If you don't go far back enough, you will respawn in front of the platforms and be stuck. Almost all the bagging strategies in the game were like these corner cuts, wall bonks, and specific respawns. These cuts are necessary for any competent bagger to learn. But what about tracks where you can't drive fully backwards? Any track that has a giant wall or gap that prevents you from continuing back is called a sitting track. Sitting tracks are labeled as such because the baggers have to sit at the last possible item set and just kind of hang out and play mind games with each other. After the first few years of exploring the game, just 6 of the 32 tracks remained sitting tracks. Coconut Mall, Toad's Factory, and Koopa Cape all had impassable walls that were too high for any vehicle to climb. And Rainbow Road, Maple Treeway, and DK Mountain all had giant chasms that separated the track that you normally clear with a cannon. You might notice that 2 cannon tracks are missing from this bunch. DK Jungle Parkway has this river, and we unfortunately cannot float across, but if you simply jump far enough, you'll respawn behind the cannon. Similarly, DK Summit looks impossible, but if you trick at the right alignment, you will pass through the invisible wall and plummet down to the fall boundary. Then you respawn at the starting line. You would think in a game this janky, people would find methods to respawn behind the cannons on the other tracks. But after the initial explosion of discoveries, nothing was found for over a decade. These 6 sitting tracks remained unbreakable, and quite boring for all the baggers to play on. On the running side, discoveries were made every year. New strats to shave off milliseconds, huge track-breaking ultra shortcuts, but the bagging side remained mostly silent. Until 2020, the year where people had more than enough time on their hands. And what a better way to spend all that time than by looking at Mario Kart Wii's checkpoint maps, specifically the checkpoint map of Coconut Mall. You see, there actually was a way to drive Coconut Mall backwards, and we've known about it for years. This is the out of bounds glitch. If you fall from this railing at a certain point, you will clip out of bounds and be able to explore the track. The glitch is most notably used to perform Coconut Mall's ultra shortcut.
Yes!
But one other fun thing you can do is get up on this arch and launch yourself into the mall from the parking lot. So yes, you can actually drive Coconut Mall backwards while using the out of bounds glitch. So why did the baggers use this in Wars? First of all, it was banned, and secondly, the method would simply not be worth it because of its difficulty. Let's go back to that checkpoint. The way the ultra shortcut is performed is by going from checkpoint 0 directly into the last key checkpoint without passing through any of the others. This makes the game think you drove an entire lap and makes the lap count. If a bagger got out of balance and started driving backwards, then didn't hit the checkpoints correctly, you could accidentally do the ultra shortcut, which would put your position in first until the other races pass you in the opposite direction. So not only are you messing up the other runners' positions, which is the main reason it's banned, but you would also be putting yourself a lap ahead of the other bagger, making it completely useless. But the solution to this is pretty simple. As long as you drive close enough to the track so that you hit the checkpoints correctly, the game will accurately track your position. It would be like driving backwards normally on the road.